Have you ever ran into somebody that you haven't seen in a couple of years? Maybe it's been since you graduated high school. Maybe it's been since you graduated college. But while you're having a conversation with them and while you're discussing some things, you start to realize in the back of your mind while you're talking to them, this person hasn't changed a bit. They're still talking about the same thing. They're still doing the same thing. They haven't had any growth in their life. They haven't had any improvements in their mindset. In fact, it may have been 10, 15 years and they're still in the exact same place mentally that they were when you met them. And oftentimes when we find people like that, it is because they're not challenging themselves and they are not willing to grow. So in today's video, I'm just going to talk to you about how that you can grow your mindset and prove it in effective ways so that you can be able to have the improvement, so that you can have the progression in your life that you're desiring. What I found that most people don't lack talent. They lack the mindset to grow. I'm going to say that again. Most people do not lack talent. They lack the mindset to grow. And we all have potential. We all have things inside of us that can grow when we begin to focus our attention on them. But whenever we don't focus our attention on them, we find ourselves stuck. We find ourselves settling for the exact same thing for longer periods of time. And we begin to think about it. Growth doesn't start with skill. It starts with a perspective change. Your growth in your life doesn't start with skill. There's a lot of people with a ton of skills. There's a lot of people with a ton of knowledge. But until you have a perspective change and you're willing to apply the things that you know, things will never change in your life. If change frustrates you, if you've been experiencing failure, and if questions threaten your logic, this video is definitely for you. So when we begin to think about it, our growth lives outside of our comfort zone. Point blank simple. Your growth lives outside of your comfort zone. And a lot of reasons why we don't like to go outside the comfort zone, because we know what's in the comfort zone. The comfort zone is convenient. The comfort zone is repetitive. And we begin to find ourselves in the comfort zone. We find ourselves in stagnation. But I want you to understand one thing. In life, pressure releases potential. Pressure releases potential. Just like if you ever had olive oil, in order for the oil to come from the olive, it has to be squeezed. And in life, a lot of times people avoid that type of pressure because it's uncomfortable, because it's unknown. And I'd rather stick to where I'm comfortable at. But you're different. You've got a desire to grow. You understand that there's a level that is inside of you that you're not going to settle for until you get it. When we begin to think about it, change exposes the weak spots that need strengthening. Our challenges expose the weak spots that need strengthening. And there are a lot of people who are not concerned about strengthening themselves. They just want to keep going and they want to avoid the change. They want to avoid the challenge. And whatever you avoid will remain. And that difficulty is always going to lead to fragile spots in your life. I want you to think about the very thing that you've been avoiding and how it's not sharpening you. I want you to think about the very thing that you're avoiding and how it's not sharpening, but it's really shaping you in a negative light. So what I want you to think about, what challenges have you been avoiding? What areas of your life have you not been focusing on? Has it been your personal growth? Has it been on your finances? Has it been within your health? Has it been within your relationships? Because a lot of times the areas that we're avoiding in our life, those are the areas that suffer the most. The next thing I want you to do, I want you to learn from failures. Because failures are not your identity. Failures are not your identity. It's important that we analyze and not personalize. It's so important that we analyze and not personalize. What does that mean? That means that we're willing to look at our life. We're willing to look at ourselves and we're willing to make the adjustments and not take it personal. One of the hardest things for people to grow from is their own negative personal opinions because they take things personally. I can never change. Have you ever heard somebody say that? I've been this way all my life. I was born this way. Things are not going to, it's impossible for me to change. But I want to let you know that you can change when you decide to change, when you get deliberate about it. And a lot of times people just don't want to face their blind spots. What is a blind spot? Blind spots are the areas in our life that we can't see that are harming us. Blind spots are areas in our life that we can't see. We're blind to it. We don't know about it. But the people around you, they see it. The people around you, they know it. They may not tell you. And so when we begin to analyze ourselves, when we begin to analyze our day, what are the things that I got done today? Did I stick to my agenda? Did I get to those goals? Did I make those steps forward that I wanted to make? And so when we begin to focus on ourselves and worry about and make improvement our aim, when we make improvement our goal, when we make progression our maximum, we begin to realize that this is how change is done. Repeating mistakes, it always shows immaturity. If you're not learning from your mistakes, if you keep repeating the same thing, it might be a lesson that you might need to do some growing in those things. So the question that I want to have for you, that I have for you on this afternoon, is that are you taking ownership of your actions? Are you willing to take ownership of your actions? The acronym I like to say, when we blame somebody, blame, 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 because looking at me's embarrassing. Because looking at me is embarrassing. And so a lot of times that's what happens when we blame. We can blame our situations. We can blame our circumstances. It's mama's fault. It's daddy's fault. It's auntie's fault. It's the society's fault. It's I can't survive. It's whoever you choose to put the blame on. But it's absolutely important that we take accountability for our actions and our contribution to what our life is. The thing that I want you to ask yourself whenever you find yourself in these situations is, what is this teaching me? What do I need to learn, and what can I do better? And the last thing I got for you, I think it's absolutely important that we stay curious. When we begin to stay curious, we understand that curiosity keeps us expanding. When we are curious about ourselves, when we are curious about life, it keeps us expanding. And a lot of people are shrinking because they think they know everything. There are so many people that you can't tell anything. I already know that. They know everything about life. But one thing I found out, if a person thinks that they knows everything, if a person thinks that they know everything, they don't know enough. Because what I've learned, the more you learn, the more you find out, the more that you don't know. And there's always something out here that we can learn. My father says it like this: whenever you stop learning, you cease to exist. And so I want you to stay curious. Ask yourself questions, because when we ask questions, we begin to find out that we begin to grow and we expand our mind. And whenever you start growing, it is the death of your ego. Whenever you start growing, it is the death of your ego, because you realize that I am able to grow. One thing that I've also learned, that if you don't look back over your life and you're not ashamed over some of the things that you've done, you're really not growing. If you don't look back over your life and your perspective change, you say, I was wrong in that situation. My thinking can grow in that situation. I'm glad I don't do those things anymore. If you can't look back and audit yourself and say, I'm thankful that I'm growing, you might want to check that area of your life. So I want you to realize, trying harder is not the answer. Getting clearer is. Trying harder is not the answer, but we have to get clear about our direction. We have to get clear about our plan, and we have to get clear about where we're looking to grow in our life. Again, your growth starts internally. It's not external. It's not trying to fix the things that are around you. But in order for you to grow, in order for your life to begin to change, it starts in here. It starts in your mind, and it starts in your heart. If you don't change how you interpret your challenges, failure, and learning, nothing else matters. If you don't switch the way you see things, the challenges, the problems, the failures, you're going to keep in the same thing, and you're going to keep repeating the same cycles and patterns. So I want you to remember these things. In order for you to grow, in order for you to change, you have to stay curious. And curiosity is how you expand. It's very important that you learn from your failures. Failures are always feedback, and I want you to be welcome to challenges. Because if it doesn't challenge you, you won't change, you won't grow, you won't progress. So I want you to think about the areas that you need to improve in, make a note of it, and start working on those areas. I want you to tap the like and follow buttons for more content that's going to help you move forward faster. And as always, you are one commitment away from elevating your life to your next level. I'm Coach Cannon, and I'm committed to progressing forward.